trying to see, he was calling Denver. He was calling everybody he could to try to see if he could change the date of the NCAA final match to tomorrow night. And I still haven't heard whether he's been able to do it, but he really did try. Well, that's okay. I'm very happy to introduce Roger Neuenschwander tonight. Roger graduated from Ball State in 1973 and then started working for Thompson, Ventulet, and Steinbach as soon as he came out of Ball State, working on the design team for the Omni International project. And after being with the firm for a very short time, he left to get an MBA at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. And then he went back to TVS, where he is now vice president for business. And rather than my going through some of the things on his resume, I would like him to tell you some of the things he does for TVS in Atlanta. I think it's curious to note, and since I have a warm spot in my heart for the University of Pennsylvania, because I spent some time there myself, I think it's interesting to note that Roger is a graduate of Ball State who also got an MBA at the University of Pennsylvania. I think that's really interesting. I think it's even more interesting to know that sitting next to Charlie Sappenfield is Roger Brady, also named Roger, who came here tonight from Cincinnati, but most importantly, he graduated from Ball State in architecture and went to the University of Pennsylvania and got an MBA. And when he finished, then the next Roger started. And these two Rogers have done really well. And so I'm happy to have Roger Brady here, and I'm very happy to have Roger Neuenschwander here. And I would like to terminate my introduction just by saying we're just delighted to have you here. And we hope you could share with us some of the things you've been doing in the past 17 years in Atlanta. Roger?
I'm going to use some note cards tonight because I had kind of a tough week getting prepared, so I'm going to use these to help keep me going. But anyway, I appreciate the kind invitation to be here. And it's been a long time. I've been looking forward to coming back. I hope that the short presentation I make tonight will be as enjoyable for you as I'm going to enjoy making it. And, the positioning I'm giving tonight, I'm going to try to show you a little bit about the firm that I'm with, Thompson, Ventulet, and Steinbach, and try to give you some insight as to the kinds of work that we do in Atlanta, Georgia. But the first thing I like to do is make a couple observations. And they're personal notes, really. The first one is I was here most of the afternoon, and I did have some time to spend in the studios. And I really enjoyed it very much in that you couldn't help but, at least in my situation, to think back and compare what it was like to be a student here almost 20 years ago, and compare the kind of work that at least I did and the studio work that we were doing compared with what you're doing today, and there really is no comparison. Yours is better, yours is stronger. But we had a good time when we were here, but I'm really impressed with the school. The facility has grown, the resources are here, the faculty is here. It really was impressive to go into the studios and see what you're doing. And obviously you're all having a good time as well. The second observation really deals with another personal note. And I think this program is truly blessed to have so many talented and dedicated educators. A lot of the individuals that are here in this school today are the same ones that taught me. And I think that speaks directly to the dedication and commitment they have to the CAP program and its goals. And that shouldn't be taken too lightly because they've had a real influence on me both in my professional career and in my personal life. And I think some years from now you'll look back on it and hopefully you'll be able to say the same thing. But this is the first time I've been able to really say it collectively. Thank you very much. A sincere thank you. You really have helped me. I assume everyone has somewhere along the line had preparation pressure get to them. And when Jack Wyman called me, 3 or 4 months ago, obviously there was no pressure. Yeah, I'll do it, whatever. And as the time got closer to be here tonight, I started to realize, well, what in the world have I got to say that would be of interest to anyone in this crowd? So you start thinking about things you might say, try to focus on what you might do. And then even if I had something to say, how do I communicate it? How do I communicate it such that you can take something with you tonight? So I called a friend of mine who does a lot of presentation work, and I think he's an effective communicator. So I called him and said, hey, look, I'm feeling this pressure about trying to get ready. Maybe you can give me some tips on how to communicate and get close to a group so that they feel like they've spent some valuable time with me when the evening's over. And he says, not to worry about it. He said, relax. He said, there's something you need to know about group dynamics and audiences and groups of this size. He said that it's been studied and researched and studied and concluded that in any group, this group included, that approximately 10% are going to be really focused on personal problems. They're going to be worried about money, grades, homework, family. They're not going to hear you anyway. And then you're going to get about 23% that'll listen to everything you have to say. They'll focus on what you're talking about. You'll communicate with them, and you can't miss them because they're going to listen. And he said that other 67% that's left behind, they're going to be having some sort of sexual fantasy the whole evening anyway, so don't worry about it. So it really doesn't matter what I say or what I do or how I try to communicate with you, because that is a group dynamic that is set. And what's good about that is it takes the pressure off. It really takes the pressure off, because I know that at the end of this presentation that I have great comfort knowing that at least 2/3 of you have thoroughly enjoyed yourself and you will go home. Kind of reminds me of when I was here on Monday nights. A lot of enjoyment. The other thing I'll mention before we kind of get rolling on what little I have to say is, I don't know about you, but I kind of like to know where I'm going before I get into a meeting, even if I'm attending a meeting or if I'm heading a meeting. I like to have an agenda. So what I'd like to do is very quickly acquaint you with the points that I'm going to try to make. And the first stop we're going to make is I'm going to give you a little overview of the firm profile. The second stop, I'm going to talk a little bit about the organization, how our firm works, how we're put together. Third will be firm philosophy, and that'll be very short because it really is directed to the point, but I do want to state it. And on the fourth, it'll be the only part of the lecture. I'm going to lecture you a little bit on the fourth part, and it's business as a career opportunity. And that'll be followed then by a selection of some projects that I brought with me. I brought one carousel slides. And for those of you who haven't already decided to go see tip-off, I'll make sure it's short enough that it'll get you out of here for the tip-off at 9 o'clock. I'll be also happy to stay afterwards for the 23% that are going to be interested in what I have to say tonight. So afterwards, I'm willing to stay as much time as you want to answer questions. And for the balance of it, if you'd like to leave, that's fine too. All right, let's talk about Thompson, Venchlet, Steinbach & Associates, firm profile. Thompson, Venchlet, Steinbach was founded in 1968. Founded in Atlanta, Georgia by the three founding principals whose names are on the door: Bill Thompson, Tom Venchlet, and Ray Steinbach. And they set out to provide architectural, interior design, and planning services with a focus on design excellence. In 1979, the firm had matured, and it has adopted and developed using an employee stock ownership plan, and therefore we are in an orderly transfer to allow our firm to be owned by its employees. And as of 1989, we're approximately 47% employee owned. We have no other offices. We only have the Atlanta office. We have no engineering disciplines in-house. We only have the architectural interior design group. We have no structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or other consultants. The firm size itself right now, and it fluctuates depending on the market you're in and the year that you might look at it, but currently in 1990, we're 190 people, and that breaks down roughly into 120 architects, 40 interior designers, and the balance are management, clerical, support people. That's roughly 30 people. So it's a total of 190, all in the Atlanta office. under one roof. In preparing for tonight, I did decide to do a little homework on the organization that I hadn't looked at in a long time because I thought it might be of interest to me, and I think it's worth passing on tonight, is tenure. How long have our people been with us? And I think that's a mark of a firm that is a good firm, is that they retain their people. They do not have a high turnover. And what I did find out is if you take the three founding principles, and having been founded in 1968, obviously we're 22 years in existence, if you take the three founding principles and the senior level people, the partners, the associate partners, and some of our senior designers, the average tenure of that crowd or that cross-section is 20 years. If you then look at just the architectural department, the architectural concerns, that tenure is 9 years, and the interior designers average 6 years. I hadn't thought about it in a long time, hadn't looked at it some time, but I'm very proud of that. I think that says a lot about our organization, about the projects we do, obviously the clients that we have. It's hard to retain good, strong professionals in this environment, and to have a tenure like that, obviously that says we're doing something right in those areas. In the 22 years that the firm has been in existence, we have designed and developed a little over 85 million square feet of space. And if you equate that to construction values, that's about $3 billion worth of construction. And that's in 22 years duration. In 1989, our total revenues were in excess of $24 million. And the only reason I mention that is because there is a study or a review that's done by Engineering News Record every year where they try to rank the firms strictly on revenues, where they fit in the cross-section across the nation. And in that survey, you'll have architectural engineering firms, engineering architectural combinations. You'll have just pure engineering firms, and you'll have pure architectural firms. If you take the study and isolate out just architectural firms, which we obviously fit into, and you sort them out, for the last 15 years, we have consistently been in the top 10 in the country as it relates to just pure out and out net revenues or billings. So we are a player, and we play in the big leagues. And I think that, again, gives you an idea of the size and volume of work we do across the country. I don't know much about computer-aided drafting. Everyone who's talked to me today, I think, has quickly found that out. But I will at least address it on a conceptual level, and that is that we do have computer-aided drafting in the office. It's a PC-based system. It's distributed throughout the office, and we use a 16-bit microcomputer, and we utilize the CAD-based software. It strictly is a hands-on application. We do not have technical operators or a department or special expertise. We absolutely want our people to learn how to use it, and we teach them how to use it in-house. I think the other thing that I could give you about firm profile that may give you some indication that, as I mentioned up top, when Thompson, Ventulet, and Steinbach started the firm, they had decided to commit themselves to design excellence. In the last 22 years, we have been given over 70 local and national design awards for our work. All right, moving into firm structure. Let me tell you a little bit, very briefly, how we are organized. As you can imagine, over 22 years, you do go through some evolution. But one of the concepts, one of the standards that we did establish early on was that we wanted to have a balanced team attack no matter what we did. We are not a departmentalized organization, meaning when a project comes to us, it is not passed from one department to the next, from one supervisor to the next, one manager to the next. It is a continuity of assignment. And through that balanced team approach, we've been able to, I think, give our clients the best service. And we'll get into this a little bit as to where we think the advantages are. In 1985, again, evolution, we refined our concept, and we now term it or define it as what we call as design studios. And we currently have 16 design studios. That's architectural design and interior design. And the design studios are headed by either a partner, an associate partner, and a senior associate. And a collective term there would be studio heads. And what we have as far as studio size then is varies. It depends on project complexity, project demands, project durations. It can be as small as 4 people. It can be as many as 20. And we try to tailor that around the needs of the project. Each studio operates as a small office. And what that means is we assign a project or a project assigned to the studio, and it stays with that studio from concept to callback. It does not move on to other managers or other supervisors or other designers. In that way, we get a personalized attention, and the services are direct. It's a small group of people that bring the service to the client. And that way we are able to, we feel like, have a continuity of professional personnel through the life of the job, and the client also is the beneficiary of the fact that he knows who his architect is. And he spends that quality time with that architect over the duration of the project. Some of our projects are large enough that they demand 5 and 6 years duration, so we have found that's very important to have that rapport established early and maintain it through the life of the job. The other advantage, we've already talked a little bit about the studio concept providing the small personalized approach, that direct and immediate responsibility for the project. That coupled with the large organization, which in a sense is my role, I represent the corporate structure, compiled with resources and the depth of resources of the large firm, meaning manpower resources, financial resources, the ability to bring computers into the organization, the administrative aspects, the billing, the accounting. When you put those two worlds together, that being the small office, the small service rendering organization with the huge corporate umbrella, we really believe we get the best of both worlds. If we're operating on all cylinders and the workload is what we hope it should be and needs to be, each studio will have more than one project at a time. And that then allows for the studio head to break his studio into design teams. And the design team then is headed by a project architect or project manager and interior designer. So that also affords our younger people the opportunity to very quickly get involved in the design process. They have an opportunity to have responsible positions. But at all times, the design teams are directly responsible to the studio head. Now, the studio head is also asked then to involve his design team with the client. We try to get the client involved too. So by assembling the experienced personnel and by having the client being the direct beneficiary of that team, we feel like we bring the best talent to the clients. I had also mentioned earlier that we have no in-house disciplines for the consultant services. It's the same procedure and the same process there. We feel like a project has a unique situation, a unique demand, so we go out and we select our consultants on the same basis. An example being, if it's a high-rise office structure, we go with a structural engineer that has experience in high-rise structures. That way, again, we blend the talent, blend the expertise, and feel like by bringing it to them at the studio concept level, the smaller level, they get the best service for the fee they pay. The other thing that we do, which we have found to also be very valuable and very helpful, is we include the client in the team. We make sure that they are involved in design reviews. We involve them in the periodic printing of the work product. We copy them on all correspondence. They're involved in most of the meetings. They're absolutely an integral part of the team. We have learned very quickly that there's nothing more expensive than a false start. If you want to have a false start, just go off thinking you know what your client wants and not involved in the loop. So a part of the team that we have does include the client. So we have our people who have expertise for the building type. We've gone out and selected the consultant to match up with the building type, and we also have the client on the team. And we do it at a small group level. And we're pretty confident that works for us, because the long history that we have had is basically based on repeat clients. And they do come back, they feel like the system works for them, and I can assure you from what I do on a day-to-day basis, there's nothing like a satisfied client. Firm philosophy. This is really pretty simple and pretty direct, but it's probably the most important part of our organization when it gets right down to the focus. I had stated to you earlier that the founding partners were obviously Bill Thompson, who, let me back up. Each one of the founding partners not only had an interest but an expertise when they started. And because of these special blendings of talent, we've been able to gain a few advantages. And Bill Thompson, W.P. Thompson Jr., he came to the firm with a business expertise. And that was his interest, and that's where his focus was, and that's where he spent his time. At the same time, Tom Venchulette, had skill and expertise in the design aspects. And he was also a good interior designer. So his concentration has been on design. Followed by Raymond F. Steinbeck, and his expertise and interest dealt with technology and the construction projects. So we had one that was interested in business, one that was interested in design, and one that was interested in building and technology. It has served all these years then as the foundation for the organization. And the only way I know how to explain this is to maybe try to do a visualization. And if you would think of a stool with 3 legs, and each leg represents one of the disciplines. So leg 1 would be business, leg 2 design, leg 3 technology. And if you're going to have a stable stool, you immediately look at the way you put the stool together, and you assume that each leg would be of equal length, each leg would be of equal strength, and when you look back at the composite, you'd realize that each one is making an equal contribution to the total. So it may be kind of silly to think of it this way, but our firm is nothing more than that stool, with each leg of the stool having a role to play in the way we're organized and the way we manage the philosophy we have. So the firm's philosophy is an extension of this 3-legged stool. We want each one of our projects to be conceptually clear. That's the design leg, the big D. We want them to be technically sound. The technology leg, the big T. And we want them to be produced at a profit. Business leg, or the big B. Every project that comes into the office is looked at on this basis. We incorporate this philosophy in the way the studios are assembled, the way the projects are run, the way they're anticipated to be finished. I mentioned to you earlier that I was going to give you just a little short lecture. Here it comes. And this deals again with business as a career opportunity. I know that when I was at the CAP, I really had only one focus at the time, and that was the big D, design. And I think I concentrated most of my efforts there. And I guess I had also anticipated I would follow that when I got out of school. And it may be presumptuous, but I'm assuming that that's still quite the case here. There's probably a lot of you who are pursuing design as your focus. And that's good. But the question I would pose to you is, have you ever thought of management as a career path also? And there's no question that you have got to have a good product if you're going to stay in business, if you're going to be an ongoing player in the markets that we compete in, the environment we have. And to me, good product is synonymous here with good design. But in addition to good design, the clients, at least that we work with, have expectations that go beyond just good design. They anticipate, they expect that, but their expectations also, they assume that it's going to be technically sound, that it's going to be constructible, that the quality of construction will be there. They want you to meet their budgets. They expect you to deliver it on time. And a lot of these aspects go beyond the design focus that we were talking about a minute ago. And they also expect, it almost comes as taken for granted, they expect you to run a sound business practice. They don't want to have you to be a weak sister or not be able to handle your resources. They expect you to be a strong firm as well, or a strong practitioner. It doesn't make any difference. Well, if you're going to meet or exceed those expectations, we have found, at least in our organization, that our best projects are obviously produced by our best architects, and that would stand good reasoning. But we also, if you go one step further, our best architects are the ones who fully understand the 3-legged stool. They understand all the aspects of what it takes to operate in our organization, and that includes the business leg. The other thing, too, to keep a focus on as it relates to the business as an application here is your clients are businessmen, too. And they expect you to be able to communicate with them and work with them directly on their business problems as well. So the design is a part of the process, but it's not the only part. So 15 years ago, for various reasons and for various circumstances, I did make a decision to concentrate on business and management as a career path, and to take that 3rd leg of the stool and let it be where I was going to spend the time and learn my profession there. And because I made that decision, it really obviously has allowed me to work into the position that I currently have, the role that I have with TBS. And that currently is a position known as managing partner. And with that, the responsibilities that I have are kind of far and spread out. But generally what it includes is the preparation and review of all the proposals we do on all our projects. It calls on me to negotiate all the fees for all the projects. It has a lot of impact on the fact that I write or help write or co-author all the contracts with our clients for all the projects. Once a project is awarded, I set up the financial monitoring systems and set up a system that allows us to track our projects and see how we're doing as a business. This is a financial part of the process. I have day-to-day operations. We have the hiring of people, the managing of people that do the accounting and so on. So with the business background, I really have had an opportunity to be involved in a rather broad-based part of our organization in the third leg of the stool, being business. But because of my role, I really believe I have one advantage over everybody in the whole organization, and one I'm really happy about, and that is I'm involved in every project we do. There's not a one that doesn't cross my desk at some stage. And even though I can't take credit for the design, or the design that it really ends up being, I do take a lot of pride knowing, though, that I set the foundation and set up the opportunity for it to be its best design. Because if I don't do a good job in getting the fee negotiated or writing a contract that allows for us to do good work, we're not going to have the best chance. So my role is to make sure that we get the project set up early, get it set up right, get the resources put in place, and then hand it off to the talented design studio. And without, you learn it very quickly, but without good financial controls, unless you're well managed, unless you really well manage your resources, you're not going to be a serious, strong player in the markets, at least where I compete. And it doesn't matter how good your design is. You can be the best designer in the world, but if you can't stay in your marketplaces with strong business, you won't be there. I honestly believe, and I think having had enough experience, 15 years in seeing other firms, I can conclude that the good firms look after their business. They're as dedicated to the business applications as they are the design applications. And it really is a good opportunity. And financial strength also allows for design experimentation. When you have deep resources and you have the ability to weather the storm, it allows your studios to try some things and experiment a little bit. They're not so tied to budgets that they can't try some new things. And again, that kind of comes back to what I do. If I do a better job, then that allows them some of that freedom and flexibility. I think the punchline that needs to be made here is that the markets are more competitive now than they've ever been. And the clients are sophisticated. They are smart business people. They know where they're headed. They know what they're doing. They know why they want to do it. The projects are complex. The financial packages are intricate. The schedules are demanding. Every one of these things play a role in today's projects. And again, those firms that are going to excel under these conditions, these environments, are the ones who are professionally managed, and those who are dedicated to the big B as much as the big D. The profession really does need, and I'll emphasize too, they need good architects, but they also need good architects with management skills at all levels, from the project level up to the level where I work, which is more of a corporate level. So as you continue your work here at College of Architecture and Planning, just keep your eyes focused on business opportunities. It's not a bad option. It's a damn good one, to be honest with you. It's been good to me. I think it's a good opportunity to look at as the firms mature, because it's obviously becoming more and more a part of the business applications of large firms, and I think of small practitioners as well. And to be honest with you, you can have an impact in the profession without having to design every project that comes down the pipe. At least I feel like I'm having an impact. What I'd like to do now, let's see, how are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good. I guess we'll move into the slides and try to give you an idea of some of the work we do. And one of the things I'll emphasize here, as I mentioned before, every one of these projects I'm going to show you, I really feel they're my projects. I know I've had a hand in them, and every one I'm going to show you I have had something to do with. So in a sense, I take a lot of pride in presenting them to you. At the same time, hopefully you will get a very quick taste of the kind of work we do. It's just a taste. It's some imagery. I can't go into much detail on the projects. I've also brought a wide variety of projects ranging from hotels to convention centers to office buildings to some special type applications. So if you have questions regarding the building types themselves, I'd be happy to again stay afterwards and talk to you about it. So let's see if I can make this work. You know how this works? There we go. The first series of projects I'm going to show you are hotel projects. We have been designing hotels for many years, and we have a good clientele, we have a good following. This particular project is known as the Concourse Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a part of a suburban office park known as Concourse Parkway. This is a roughly 370-room hotel. It's about 260,000 square feet. And it was done for the Landmarks Group. And I was talking to Charlie Sappenfield, and his good personal friend is Blaine Kelly, and this is Blaine Kelly's organization that we're working for here. This happens to be a close-up shot, which is basically the coffee shop area, which is at the base of the lake. And the next shot then is the interiors of the coffee shop itself. This project was a project that we did with all local Atlanta talent, and the contractor was also from Atlanta. It was built on time and in money. This is the interior lobby space as you enter through the front door. This one's a little closer to home. This is to Toledo, Ohio. This is a Radisson that we were asked to design. It is roughly 400 rooms. It's about a 280,000 square foot building. And this one really had a very tight budget. This was not a high upscale project as far as cost per square foot construction. This is the main entry to it. And then directly behind this metal wall is the lobby space, which we also did the interiors for this particular building. I'm going to have some interior shots here of some of our pure interiors, but we try to, as wherever possible, negotiate the interiors package as well as the architectural package. In this particular case, this client allowed for us to have that opportunity. You don't always get it, especially in hotels. Usually the chains have their own designers. This is a particular project that I've always liked. This is in Tampa, Florida, and it's right on the bay. And this is a hotel we did for the Hyatt Corporation, and it's 415 rooms. It's about a 300,000 square foot facility, and it was a very upscale, upgraded, it's an expensive hotel. This had a lot of budget in it. And what we did was we borrowed, basically it's an ocean front opportunity, so the wave scheme of the bay itself is reflected in the way we handle the treatment of the building. The lower level is, obviously all these hotels have meeting facilities, saunas, and baths. Usually have numerous restaurants and eating facilities within them. So the programs are rather similar. What you find that differentiates one from the other is basically the budgets they apply and the level of finishes. So the program itself is usually consistent, but where the finished items do. Now this is a whole totally different scale. This is 21 rooms. This is in Nantucket Island. And this is a small little inn, it's a little destination resort hotel that we have designed. And no sooner did we get it designed, they put it on hold because they couldn't afford to build it. And they decided just to wait, and maybe someday it'll come back to life. But it's all wood frame construction. It's only, like I said, 21 rooms, and it's like 25,000 square feet. So where the others were 300,000 and 400,000 square feet, we're also capable of having studios that can refine their work down to this scale as well, and still answer a hotel program. The next series of slides will be corporate office buildings, where we have a user client that will move their organization into the building as opposed to a speculative client. This is also Atlanta, Georgia. This is for the life insurance company of Georgia. It's called Life of Georgia. This is I think it's a five-story building, and it's a low-rise corporate headquarters building. We quite often think of corporate headquarters being high-rise buildings with high imagery. This happens to be in a neighborhood area, and this particular client wanted to make sure that it was a good neighbor. He asked us to keep it low. So this total facility is about 500,000 square feet. It's a precast building with granite inlays built right into the precast stone. This is the back side of the building. It has a cafeteria facility that will accommodate approximately 400 people. It has a health spa facility in it, and it has a lot of data equipment in it, so it has a lot of raised flooring in it as well. Again, this one was produced in budget and in time. We did not do all the interiors. We did the lobby spaces, but when it came for the corporate turnkey spaces, they hired another design firm to do that. But we did do the lobby spaces because we felt like they were an integral part of the exterior architecture as you came in the doors. This is another corporate headquarters facility that we did. This is in Simsbury, Connecticut. This is for the Hartford Life Insurance Company. And this is their main headquarters building for their life insurance company. This building also has a component that you can't see in this slide, which is the data center. What was really interesting about the program of the data center is it's designed to be 3 times the square footage that it requires to operate on a normal basis. What the extra square footage is for is for disaster mode. You never think of what unique situations that your clients might have, but in this case, in the event of a national disaster or a national emergency where oxygen claims are high, they have the ability to basically back a truck up to the back door of the data center and move in computers and plug them right in and go into a 3 times capacity to handle a crisis situation. So they build in extra capacity, and obviously they pay dearly for it for the day, and hopefully it will never happen. But in the event they would have an emergency situation where they have to handle claims 3 and 4 times their normal load. This also was at the owner's request. It's in Simsbury. It's a small little country town, you might say. They asked for it to be a low-profile, quiet building. This is a 70-acre site that they bought, and they wanted to be a good neighbor. So again, we were asked somewhat to keep the height of the building down and deal with their program in those terms. We also did the interior design in this building. I only brought one because of not enough slides there. I didn't want to take up too much time with slides, but this is just the main entry. But we did the total interiors for that, and the interiors fee on the turnkey approached what we got for the architecture. So we would like to get the interiors fees when we can. This is a building in Atlanta. This is for AT&T. This is the Long Lines division. In this building, they wanted a very simple, understated building, except for the main entry. They wanted it to be a very high-profile front door image. So where we put our money was where they wanted it. It was in the front door. The rest of it's just poured-in-place concrete with strip windows. It's a nice building, but it's nowhere close to the quality and finish level that we put at the front door. What's interesting, and you never know what impact your buildings might have on potential clients, this building probably has had more to do with us getting corporate facilities than we've done because of its location. It's on Peachtree Street. If you drive on Peachtree Street, you go by it, and it's lit at night like this. We've had more than one client come to us and say, we saw your building, and we inquired who did it, and that's why we're here. This is the main lobby space inside. Again, we did the interior design on this project as well. It's about a 500,000 square foot building. Across the street is a building that we completed not too long ago, another corporate headquarters building for Bell South. This is called Campanile. This building is a high-rise corporate facility. It's, again, about 600,000 square feet. It has a parking deck adjacent to it across the street, and it has parking below for one grade for the executives. In this case, they had a very low budget, so we could not do the whole building in granite. So it's kind of like a bookend situation. On the outside edge, you see the granite exterior, and then squeezed in between it is just glass. So it's a vision system. And this allowed them to keep the cost down, yet get the refinement and quality of materials that they wanted. This was the interior space. And again, we did the interiors for the lobby. The turnkey spaces of the corporate facility itself, again, was done by the interior design firm. Bill South took half of this building, so they took 300,000 square feet. The other half then was turned over to open leasing. Find that to be more common in Atlanta every year. This is one of my favorite buildings. This was done for Gulf Power in Pensacola, Florida. Again, this is a 5-story building. It is for the strangest client we've ever worked for in our lives. They are a one-time client. They're a one-time buyer. They had no expertise in how to design or build buildings. They didn't really know what they wanted. They were confused from day one, and they interfered every step of the way. We lost a ton of money on this job. But the bottom line for us, though, is we really are very satisfied with the design. So every now and then, no matter how good a job I thought I did, I blew that one. It didn't come close to what it was going to take to do it. As an example, to show you how confused, they had turned this project over to their project manager and gave him full power. The guy couldn't read drawings, didn't even know how to relate to scale, and he would get all upset with us. We had to redesign the corporate floor, the top executive floor, 12 times. And he kept coming back and never liked it. He never quite understood it. So we said, well, draw it for us. You seem to know what you want. Show us what you want. So we had laid out some yellow trash. And he was drawing desks the size of the whole elevator core. And then he would have restrooms that you could fit inside a teacup. And he just had no comprehension. Then we realized what our problems were, but we asked the question too late. So that one we got going too fast. We should have found out more about our client. It also is on the bay, and we allowed for the cafeteria and some of the executive offices to be able to look right out on the bay. This lower area is the cafeteria itself for the employees. And we did the interiors on this being the interior lobby with a lot of treatment. They really got a bargain in that this building is a very, very high quality building. And because they're the biggest gorilla in the jungle down in Pensacola, they just negotiated every contract down to bare bones. And at the end of the job, we all compared notes. Everyone was lost. The next series of projects are convention centers. And this is a very, very strong market for TBS and Associates. We've been in it a long time. We really are a serious player in this market. We have a lot of opportunities to do it. We're doing them all over the country. I'm doing just a cross section here. This is Miami Beach. And the program here, in the early 70s, Miami Beach was the place to have conventions. They had a 500,000 square foot facility, and they could get anybody they wanted at any time. By the time the 80s rolled around, they got wrestling and boxing, they were doing good. They really had a dismal facility that fallen behind the times. It was outdated, it didn't work. So our challenge was to bring them into the 90s in the year 2000. We had to double the size of the facility to 1 million square feet, and we had to keep the existing facility in operation while we did this. Now it was the quality side. It's also in the Art Deco area. We had people crawling all over us at all times, making sure that we were being responsive to the territory that the building was in. So it has a lot of stucco, it has a lot of the South Florida colors, and in the end, this is currently in the latest published edition of Architectural Records, so you can read more about it if you're interested. But in the end, they were very satisfied with it, and they now have the center booked to 1995. So this is a highly competitive marketplace, and the major cities in the country are after these centers. And as fast as we can design them, we're having an opportunity to be a participant. This is just the pre-function space before you get into the exhibit halls themselves. Kind of visually remember this, and you get a feel for the scale of this particular lobby space. When we get to the World Congress Center in Atlanta, I think you'll get a sensation of what it's like to have a 2 million square foot facility. This is one of the eating areas. They thought it was important to have plenty of spaces where people could come out of the exhibit hall, sit down and eat, have coffee or something. So this is one of the exhibit spin-off areas for eating. I really didn't intend to highlight the total complex here. Up in the upper right-hand corner was really what I wanted to show you. That's the World Congress Center in Atlanta. That's roughly 2 million square feet of exhibit hall, ballrooms, auditorium, and gallery space. But now that it's here, I might as well point it out. In the lower left-hand corner, that's Omni International. That was the first project I worked on when I left the CAP. And I worked on this foreground. That was the hotel portion. That was my first assignment. At the same time, We also have designed the building behind it with the dark roof. That's the Omni. That's where the Hawks play. It's where the Flames used to play. It's a multi-event arena, and it's a 17,000 seat arena. And we did that in the early 70s. CNN Center now is what Omni International is known as. Ted Turner bought it for his corporate headquarters building. Our offices are located in this building. We are soon to move them because of a lot of reasons, but he obviously wanted space as well. Over on the upper right-hand corner is where I really want you to focus. That's a Congress Center, World Congress Center. It's an exhibit hall. And the first low-roof building is Phase 1, and it was 700,000 square feet. The second low-roof building, which is more towards the north at the top, was double the size. It was 1,000,005 square feet. We have now been hired to do the third phase, which extends out of Phase 2 to the right, and it's another 500,000 square feet. And then Phase 4 goes on the north of Phase 2 for another 500,000 square feet. The demand for conventioning in Atlanta is so great that we will have no problem following through with this. And it was so quickly utilized as far as its potential. The first buildings was built for $27 million. The debt service on it was retired in 5 years from the sales tax revenues generated by the conventions that came into Atlanta. So it paid for itself in 5 years, made Phase 2 a real easy one. Phase 2 was $90 million. Phase 3 is $153 million. Phase 4, we don't know because we're not there yet. This is the entry, the exterior entry to go into the halls. And if you go left, you go to Phase 2. If you go right, you go to Phase 1. So it serves as the main entry to both complexes. Here you can get an idea of the scale change. This is a much larger scale, pre-function area for conventioneers over the Miami Beach one. Obviously, we have, as an example, just several weeks ago, the Super Sport show came in, which is the manufacturers of all the sporting goods that we obviously buy every year, from Nike shoes to Puma or whatever. They all come and show their new 1990 products. That brought 80,000 conventioneers to this building in 1 week. It generated $83 million in revenues to the state of Georgia because that convention was held there. They have now told Atlanta if they don't get the next phase built, they won't come back because they want to increase their show size another 25%. This is one of the concourses leading that there are exhibit halls, but it's also packed with meeting rooms. There is a lot of square footage dedicated to meeting rooms in this facility as well, because you have a lot of seminars and spin-off groups that obviously are outgrowth of the convention itself. This is the ballroom in the facility. This will house and handle many different kind of functions, sit-down dinners to dances to trade expos. Matter of fact, the Nike Corporation rented the ballroom, and this is where they showed their wares. They didn't want to be in the exhibit hall. They wanted to be in the ballroom. So obviously they paid the price for that, but it was worthwhile because they felt like that gave them an upper hand. This is the auditorium. It is used quite often for conventioneers as well. It's a multilingual auditorium, so you can have different nationalities participate. This is a new facility that we're just now bringing off the drawing boards. This is in Mobile, Alabama. This is a 500,000 square foot convention center in Mobile. It's interesting. Everybody wants one. The major cities have got them. The secondary and tertiary cities now want them as well. Everybody honestly believes they can capture the convention trade. Mobile is a wonderful southern city. It's a beautiful city. I would have never thought that they would put a 500,000 square foot building in place for conventioneers because it's off the beaten path. There are no real easy ways in and out of Mobile. It is not an easy city to get to. But they were satisfied. The market study said, let's do it. We should do it. We're doing it. And it's a nice facility. It's right on the riverfront. And it should be off the boards within a month and go to bids next month. This is a special project for me in that I have had a lot of hours spent on putting this deal together from our end. It took 5 years to assemble this deal. This is Philadelphia. and this is the Philadelphia Convention Center. And we spent a lot of money pursuing this one, where we felt like this gave us an opportunity that few other firms could point to after its completion. In the kind of the lower right-hand side, you see the barrel vaulted structure. That is the Reading train terminal. It's on the historic register, but it's been abandoned and it's decaying. It's rusting away. It's a piece of junk. But below it is the market, the Reading market, and it is a viable part of the center city fabric. People come and buy their foodstuffs there. That is a part of the design problem I'll get to in a minute. It is a very complicated problem we face. They decided that they wanted to utilize the train shed facility as the ballroom and meeting rooms. And then the exhibit hall is an all-new structure, which is directly north of the train shed. So the head house is on Market Street, and they would enter the convention center basically through the Market Street entry, go through the train shed into the exhibit halls themselves. Now, the complications that we face is the market is a viable, ongoing business concern. And you got to build over, around them, and through them. And they have a very strong business association. And they have brought a suit against the Pennsylvania Convention Center Authority to try to stop the project because they honestly feel threatened by this. So we have spent a lot of time in developing schemes and showing organizational structures on how we can keep them in business and still build over them and around them and through them. And basically, the scheme we finally negotiated is we would take a quarter of the market at a time and relocate them. Go in and do the construction in that quarter that's been vacated, relocate them in new space so that they can continue their business, finish the work, move them back in, relocate another quarter of the market, move them out, we move in, and you just go round robin until all 4 quarters are completed. We have got to resize all of the columns that go to grade in the building. None of them can handle the load. And you would think that with trains running over that train shed floor that there would have been ample structure, but it was such a highly engineered product at the time. The only place you found the strength in the columns was directly under the rails of the track. There was no extra strength built in across the slab total. So we're having to go in and basically restructure the whole building to maintain it. And that has driven construction costs up considerably, as you can well imagine. Philadelphia is also a very, very interested city in what we're doing, and we're having a lot of time spent with civic groups, design groups, the historical commission, and every politician in town. So the building is scheduled for a 1992 opening. It's 1.2 million square feet. It's about a $250 million project, and it's a very highly detailed, a lot of money in the finishes and detailing of the building. I have nothing to show you other than really one model shot, which doesn't tell you much. But the Historical Commission insisted that we try to, as much as possible, recreate the scale of the row houses and get it more to a human scale. So even though this model shot doesn't help you much, this is the current thinking, the current schemes we're working on to try to respond to those desires. And if we don't do it, you're not going to get this building built. They are very powerful. Retail. We do a lot of retail. It's been one of our main markets for the 22 years that we've been in business. This is in Altamont Springs, Florida. This was a total renovation of a four anchor store mall, 1,200,000 square feet. And all they had us come in and do was just refurbish it. We didn't add anything new. We didn't add any new stores or any new square footage. We just came in and gave it a new look. The retail client is different than any client you're going to have. They're in showbiz. They're in stage setting. They are trying to attract people to their malls, and these places have become more of a place to be and go. So as you can see, the column capitals here, for what they're worth, I like them, but I can imagine some purists would look at them and say, no go. But this is what this particular client needs and demands, and they are looking where in the early days of our retail work, cheap finishes, really cheap finishes, Now they're at the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. You'll put $125 a square foot in a space like this in the mall area itself. Now the retailers behind it that's just shell and core, you might put $40 a square foot in that. But this one in particular is well over $100 a square foot, and it has highly finished materials all the way through. This is a project we did in Dallas, Texas. This is from Macys. Macys has been one of our clients for about 20 years as well. The two buildings, the two high-rise buildings were existing, and they asked us to put the store in between the two buildings. That was a difficult problem in that they also had to have parking below the building. So when you got ready to dig the hole, obviously our parking was below the foundations of the two buildings that were standing. So we had to get into some rather serious structural gymnastics to keep those two buildings from leaning over into our site. In the end, it worked out fine, but it was not an easy problem to solve. And we ended up, because of problems and again, some of the structural gymnastics, we ended up putting one of the levels of parking on the roof. We couldn't make it work below grade all the way. So they had an 1,800 car demand, and we had to put two levels below and one above. So up at the very top, that fenestration is where the parking is. And this is an all granite building. Very expensive materials. It's a 3-level store. It's about 270,000 square feet, and they put about $90 a square foot in the building. This is a renovation. We do a lot of mall renovations. This is Overthrow Mall, Savannah, Georgia. And in this particular case, there was an existing mall, and all they asked us to do was come in and add another 200,000 square foot wing to it. And this is, oops. Sorry. And this is the interiors space that was created. Again, each one we do becomes higher level design, a higher refinement of detail, more money. And we're finding, even with all the shakeout in the retail industry right now that you read about, we're still having retail clients come to us wanting to continue to renovate and expand on the current centers they have. One of the interesting things, in the early 70s, we did regional malls all over the Southeast. But when they got, and basically their drawing potential was 200 miles. And when the radius of one mall started to overlap the radius of another, the 200-mile radiuses, they quit building them, because then they were starting to cannibalize each other's markets, and it didn't make sense because they really weren't winning anybody's battle. So the regional mall died, and we absolutely went out of business for about 8 years. It wasn't until the malls that we did in the 70s became tired and worn and basically not very current that the retail market came back. And we are now going back in and renovating and revitalizing a lot of the centers that we did 15, 20 years ago. This is another interior shot of the old Thorpe Mall Savannah. This is a project we did in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is for, again, one of our long-term clients. This is IBM. And IBM bought a 1,200-acre site, one of the most beautiful sites that I think we've ever had the opportunity to work on. And they wanted us to put on this particular site a manufacturing facility. This is a manufacturing facility, believe it or not. It has labs, it has dining facilities, it has manufacturing space, it has materials distribution space, it has warehousing space. It also has a unique piece called an ASRS, which is a high bay computer retrieval system, which is nothing more than computer equipment going down on rails and reaching up and bringing parts back, as opposed to having somebody in a trolley going out and getting the parts. They wanted a high-tech, a sharp, crisp image because they felt like it was in keeping with their image as the IBM Corporation. So this is a stainless steel exterior skin building. It's 1.5 million square feet, and it was designed to help them develop and produce their banking equipment. The automatic tellers that we all use these days, this was IBM's entry in that marketplace. They have now discontinued using it, and they're revamping the total facility to now develop software. IBM's decided that they need to go into software, so they're absolutely reprogramming this project now to produce something new. It's a campus-type arrangement. There is a lot of exterior space that is utilized. It's a beautiful site. And again, they insisted that we make it something for the employees to enjoy and use. This is one of their reception areas inside it. So you would never think of it as a manufacturing building, but it is in manufacturing. Now I'm going to show you what I call shell and core or speculative office buildings. These are projects that are built by developers that have no major lease or any main tenant thought of when they build it. This is strictly speculative, and they hope to get the leases to fill it up. This one was also done in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is known as Buckhead Plaza. And what is interesting about this particular project is this particular developer, Buckhead is a very prestigious address in Atlanta. It's a high-profile neighborhood. It's a money neighborhood. And that old adage about location, 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 this particular developer really felt like the location would make this project go, and he ignored our mass transit line. He really honestly did not think that the MARTA line was going to be that important factor in his building. He learned about 2 years later when he was at 30% rental that the mass transit had a lot to do with the potentials he was going to have for leases. He has now been able to fill this building, but he did not have a very successful financial opportunity. At the same time, we designed 3 other buildings for him. He was going to build them as fast as we could put them up. He has now reconsidered what he's doing, and Metropolitan is his joint venture money partner, and they have said to him that they will not build the second building until it's 70% pre-leased. Well, with a pre-lease of 70%, you're going to have one serious major tenant when you're talking about a 450,000 square foot building. This was the lobby space that we did for him. This is another one of my fiascos when it came to fee. I didn't get close to getting this fee right. And did it for $20,000, and it took us $67,000 to do. So sometimes you get them right, sometimes you don't. This is a suburban office park in Atlanta. This, again, is Landmarks Group. This is Blaine Kelly. And this project, where the one I just showed you was an absolute fiasco and a financial flop, this one is the complete opposite. When we started this project, it was going to have a low-rise, 6-story max, high-tech building imagery. We're going to put a 15-year build-out. At the end of this year, it'll be done 5 years after we started it. No sooner did he get the 6 low-story buildings, he decided, and rightfully so, that he wanted to go with a higher density. So we went back to the city, got his whole project rezoned, and we put a 30-story tower right in the middle of it. And everybody said it was crazy. What are we talking about? You can't lease high-rise buildings in a suburban office park on a perimeter highway. Well, not only did he do it, he turned around. He's hired us now to do the twin tower to it. So we're going to have 2 30-story towers out there. And what we want to do on the second one is change the top, have a king and a queen. So we hope to be able to convince him to put 2 different tops on it. But right now, he's pretty insistent that the tops match as well. The first hotel that I showed you also is in this complex, the Concourse Hotel. So it now has 10 6-story buildings, it has 2 30-story buildings, it has a hotel, and it has a health club complex on it. And it's probably the most successful office park in the Southeast. And it also is an interesting thing that he wanted. We call it concourse. In suburban office parks, the automobile dominates. Parking lots, pedestrian interference with parking and cars driving. So we pushed the cars to the outside of the site, brought the buildings to the inside of the site, and then connected them with walkways. Therefore, the word concourse was applied. And you can get from any building in covered, they're open now because of the climate being mild, there are open walkways between every building. So you can go from one building to the next, to the health club, to the hotel, without ever having to be interfered with by the automobile. This has been such a good concept for us that we've had 2 other projects now designed based on the same kind of theme. It's another example of how This is the 30-story tower base being connected back to the parking garage. This is a project that is not under construction. This was designed by a Ball State graduate. Teresa Carpenter designed this project for us. It's a two-phase build-out. The one on the right is a 20-story office building. The one on the left is a 30-story office building. It's in Hartford, Connecticut. It is also a shell and core speculative office building. Right now, Hartford has a glut of office space, so that's one of the reasons why it's not going ahead. But I think this is an example of trying to stress to you again the way we're organized. Teresa graduated in '83. 6 years out of school, she's doing this kind of work for us. Granted, she's talented, she's bright, she's very good at what she does, but the studio concept allowed her talent to be showcased very early. And she headed up this design team. She handled the total working drawings on it. And when it gets built, she's going to be the one that goes to the site and handles it. The developer decided that he did want to be able to market it in a stronger fashion than just rendering, so he did have this model built. This model was a $125,000 commitment on his part, but it did allow for a rather serious commitment to the building itself so we can see how it really worked. And of course, we like it too, this being the top of the tall one. The tallest, the 30th story is roughly a 700,000 square foot building. And I think Teresa did a nice job on this. We're very happy with it, and we're going to allow her to do more work. Our old friends at Landmarks, here we are again. Wayne Kelly, in addition to suburban, has got an urban project going. This is known as Promenade. And I had mentioned to you earlier, we did the AT&T Long Lines Division building with the big front door image. Right in front of the three towers that you see is that Long Lines building. And because we did a good job for them years ago, it put us in a position to be able to do this project again because AT&T is a 50-50 joint partner. So, joint venture partner. So you've got to do good work at all times. You've got to treat your clients up front with the way you do it. And you mistreat them one time, they'll never be back. You do it once, and that'll be the last time. Richard Myers High Museum is in the foreground. Johnson Bergese IBM Tower is to the right. And the three standing in the middle are the projects that we are designing. The middle tower is under construction. It's been topped out. It'll open up in July, and we will be moving our offices to that tower next year, early next year. This is Peachtree Street that you see also. This is a little closer model shot. The one to the far right is 60 stories. It's 1,000,004 square footage. The one in the foreground is about 35 stories. A little deceiving here in this model shot. It's about 35 stories, and it's about a 700,000 square foot building. And the one to the left and back is a 24-story building, about 400,000 square feet. It's connected at the base by retail and a water garden, and to the right is the parking garage facility to support it. We also do interior design for clients that have nothing to do with our architecture. We obviously try to do the architecture and interior design as a package, but sometimes that doesn't work out. At the same time, we also try to pursue interiors projects that have nothing to do with the architecture. This is in Tampa, Florida. This is for the Barnett Bank building. This is the lobby spaces that we did for them a couple of years ago. And again, high-level materials, high-finish materials, expensive budgets, a lot of wood, a lot of marble. Our interior design being 40 people, we are pretty active in those markets as well. This is an AT&T marketing center. Again, AT&T, long-term client, did a good job on the architecture. We had an opportunity to do some of their interiors work. This is a marketing center. This is where they bring their people to teach them how to market their products. So it's a very high image, high level, high sophisticated, comfortable showroom. And there are meeting rooms and seminar training rooms and product rooms here. This is in Galleria. It's also in Atlanta. And again, this is just imagery. I don't know a lot about it. It's about 20,000 square foot facility. Behind those screens are the meeting rooms, and this is a pre-function space that is utilized before the meetings. This one we just finished last month. This is also for AT&T, obviously. And this is informed. John Portman built a multi-use facility that has merchandising marts. And this is the merchandising mart for high-tech equipment. And all the major suppliers and vendors are going into this mart to basically merchandise their high-tech equipment, AT&T no exception. They hired us to do their showroom. It's just been completed. Again, expensive materials. This is also about a 20,000 square foot facility. And as you can see, we're just showcasing their products. It also has meeting rooms and some other spin-off type function spaces, some high-tech areas and multi-visual. This is one of the hallways. This is a very small-scale project. Again, trying to emphasize we can do the 1,000,005s and we can do the 20,000 square footers. This is a 20,000 square foot Ronald McDonald Cancer Clinic. It's on the campus of Emory University, and this is a diagnostic center where children with cancer are diagnosed and treated. What was special about this building for us is we donated our fee. We designed this for them at no fee. We did put some limitations on it so they couldn't run us crazy. We did put a ceiling on it. But this project has been a design award winner for us. We're very proud of it. And it has truly proven to be a very, very successful project to us. We have many parents write us and tell us how happy they were that their children were able to come to us, a facility like this. And because we did a good job on it, Emory University has now hired us to do some other work for us. So you never know what project's going to lead to the next. If you bring quality expertise and you do a good job, the chances of a repeat client are fulfilled. This is a little lead-in to another strange story on how you get work. The state of Georgia, we do a lot of work for the state of Georgia, hired us several years ago to do a plaza for them right outside of underground Atlanta and a old train depot that they had refurbished for convention trade. And they asked us to come in and design a plaza that would be in front of this building. At the time we're doing this work, the Coca-Cola company next door on another site is trying to make a decision if they should buy the piece of property and put a building on it as a welcome center to the city of Atlanta through the Coca-Cola imagery. So we were helpful. We gave them drawings. We told them what our ideas were and never thought another thing about it. It was just a thing you should do. At about the same time, Georgia Pacific came to Atlanta, and part of their negotiation was such they need such a large piece of downtown territory that they had to have this little plaza area that had held the Coke's image sign for years. This is a neon sign, and it's been a part of Atlanta for, I think, 35 years, they told us, maybe 40, right after the war. And it had been part of Atlanta, and it was a high-image element. But because Georgia Pacific needed it, they tore it down, and they got rid of the sign. Well, 2 and 2 make 4 here. They came to us because we had treated them with a lot of respect, a lot of kindness, and no strings attached. When it came time for them to make the decision, they didn't even interview another architect. They just came to us and said, we want you to design this building for us. We want you to put our globe back on the map. So this model is hard to see, but in that open fourth quadrant is a neon Coca-Cola sign that rotates and blinks and flashes just like the old one did down on Houston Street. There you can see it a little better. And it rotates. This building is threefold. It is a museum for their artifacts. It is a conferencing center, a welcome center, and it is also a soda fountain of the future. So each one of those quads holds one of those elements. Of course, it has meeting rooms and offices as well. So this is the Coca-Cola signature building now. It's 50,000 square feet, and it will open June of this year. And we're very pleased with it, and they're very happy with it. And working for Coca-Cola is something that we have wanted to do since the day we opened our practice, and it was a rather strange, backhanded way that we came to get to know them, but we're glad we have. We designed a Coca-Cola bottle in the corner to hold Teresa Carpenter again. This is a building that she designed for us. This is a competition in the city of Atlanta for the CNS corporate headquarters building for a new bank. We did not win this competition, but we feel like we again saw Teresa maturing and coming along, and we have a lot of mature architects, but we turned this project over to her 7 years out of school to be the lead designer, and she did. We're very pleased that she did it for us. This is a little night rendering she did for us. This building should have won. This is a good building. Didn't work out that way. We spent over $200,000 in this competition and got paid 10. There, again, corporate facility, strong resources, depth of resources, allowed us to get into that. This is a project that we're just currently working on. This is a domed facility for the Atlanta Falcons. It's called Georgia Dome. It's a 1.6 million square foot building, 70,500 seats, 500 over the mark to get the Super Bowl. We started at 80,000 seats. Budget restrictions and cutbacks caused us to take out the 10,000 seats. You don't get the Super Bowl unless you're 70,000 seats, so that's why we got 70,500 seats. And the owners of the Falcons honestly believe they've got a shot. In the background is the World Congress Center. One of the interesting and unique things about this dome facility is the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia said it's silly to build a facility that's operating 12 days out of the year and you put $200 million in it. We got to get some more use out of it. What we're going to do at this facility is also use it for the convention center. So it has a direct link back to the World Congress Center, which we've already gone through and given you a very quick overview. This will now add another 1 million square feet to the World Congress Center's ability to have trade shows and exhibits and meeting rooms. We're ahead of the other cities. So now Chicago has decided that they need to build the Bears a stadium, put it next to McCormick Place, and be able to compete with this Atlanta facility. So this is a high-profile business, this exhibit hall stuff. And as luck would have it, we're in the marketplace. And this is a little specialty thing we did. It may not wear well here in Indiana, but the Democrats came to Atlanta, and we had designed the arena some time ago, and they hired us to design and build in the platform. And this is where the Democratic National Convention was held, was in the Army Arena, and we designed this. We literally took out half the seats in the arena and built this in their place. So as the arena steps back for sight lines, this is how we build in the podium. This was a fast-paced, deadline dynamics. One hiccup, you were going to have so many liquidated lawsuit damages. It was scary business, but we got it done on time. And within 7 days after they left, it was all torn out, put back together. That's it. Let me give you just a closing remark or two, and then we'll. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 20 after 9. My apologies. There's no question, and I think you've learned it by being here. Architecture is a demanding career. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. There's a lot of hours spent, and it won't change when you get in the profession. It's the same out there as it is here. And if you're dedicated and committed, you can do it, and you'll do well. And it really is a great profession. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm glad I'm involved in it. I don't mind the hard work. But there's one piece of advice I can give you. That is, and it's real simple, is work hard while you're here, but learn before you earn. Learn before you earn. You'll have plenty of time to earn when you get out there, so really learn. Spend your time on the learning skills. It'll really pay off. Anyway, thanks again. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And for the 23% of you that I talked to, if you want to join me afterwards, I'll stay around and spend some time with you. Otherwise, we can conclude. Thanks.
If you have any extra projects or markers, just see them afterward, and they'll sign the contract with you before you can leave the room.
That's right.